Hello, everybody. It's Michael from JurisQ.com with divorce attorney Alla Kurolapnik. Alla, welcome back.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Alla, you and I discussed various, sometimes dry legal topics, but we try to make it interesting. But I also on occasion bring you when there are celebrity news, when there's any kind of news that affects divorce law. And recently, just a few weeks ago, unfortunately, another celebrity couple filed for divorce. And I want to digest the case with you, the case of Emily Ratajkowski. And she's, of course, the famous model and actress. And her husband is also not a chump. He is a producer. And it's very interesting when you analyze these cases, a lot could be learned that could also be applied to your own cases. We can draw a lot of lessons and see how divorce law really comes to life and becomes applicable. Okay, so let me just read a little bit about this case from an article, of course, from page 6, New York Post. Emily Ratajkowski files for divorce from Sebastian Bear McClard. Now, they are a young couple. They've only been married for a few years. 4 years, as a matter of fact. They have 2 kids. And of course, she got a giant engagement slash wedding ring. So we want to know everything about it. Let's talk about whether mediation, because this is the bulk of what you do, whether mediation could really aid in a case of this by a celebrity couple. What do you say, Alla?
So here's the way I digest it. I mean, I would think, and I could be wrong about this, but I have to presume that the parties must have had a prenuptial agreement with respect to their finances. But they do have 2 children, from what I understand. And the fight here may very well be with respect to the children. Okay. Since they've already filed in court and are now appearing in court, it is my inclination to say that they probably couldn't work out their differences. Okay. And that even if they did try mediation, it may not have worked. Now, I don't know if they have or they haven't, but I would assume that would be the first analysis I would do. The second analysis is if they have not tried mediation, they are now in court, and I'm wondering whatever judge they're going to get assigned to, whether or not that judge is going to suggest the presumptive mediation program to the parties.
Is that mandatory or it's something that judges recommend?
It's not mandatory in the sense like in New Jersey, right? So in other words, the program is available. Not all parts, not all the matrimonial parts in New York have adopted it. Not all parts recommend it. And you have to remember, a case has to be ripe in order to be able to put it forth to mediation. In other words, there are some cases that where the fight is over discovery maybe, and mediation wouldn't be appropriate. In those particular cases, they'd have a hearing officer assigned to them to oversee discovery. So that's the more appropriate, avenue to take. So not every case is mediation ripe or ready or appropriate for mediation, but in this particular case, in this, spotlight case that we're talking about, I'm wondering whether or not I'd have to presume that they must have tried to mediate, because with celebrity couples, the last thing you want to do is be in court unless A, you're trying to do it for PR purposes, or B, there's truly a fight to be had with respect to something big. And I'm assuming that there's a fight to be had here, whether it's respect to their children or whether it's respect to the finances.
Yeah, because we saw that Emily is the one who filed first. So if you would be attorney for Sebastian, her husband, you would recommend that he should agree or request mediation in this case.
Well, I think it depends on what the issues are. I think it depends, if she's telling him, look, I want to move to whatever country I'm from, and you're not seeing these children, I don't think there's an issue here to be mediated, right? And she filed a motion for that. If she's filed a motion with the court for relocation, then this is, you can try to hold the motion in abeyance and try to work it out. And for those of us who don't know what a motion is a written request for a judge to issue you some kind of relief. Okay.
I see.
So when that's done, I'm not really sure whether or not there's something here to mediate. If the request is, I want to move out of the United States, take my kids with me, and arrivederci, you can see them, you know, once a year when I'm
Right.
back in New York.
Right.
So
Okay, understood. So every case is really case specific.
there has to be an initial analysis done with every divorce to determine, at least from my perspective, which way the case needs to flow and how to
Understood.
posture the case so that you're able to, you know, obtain the best result for your client.
Okay, Alla, speaking of posturing, her husband, Sebastian, was accused of being a serial cheater, and allegedly there are allegations of cheating in this case as well, in this particular marriage. A lot of people don't really understand this, and they think cheating is a big part of a divorce proceeding, legally speaking. From your experience, from your knowledge, if you prove the other party, spouse, cheated, does that at all affect the terms of a divorce?
So let's start with the basic issue, which is the grounds for divorce.
Okay.
You know, New York used to be a ground state, which meant that in order to get divorced, you couldn't just say, I don't love you anymore. I'm sorry. Like it just didn't work out. I just want out. You used to have grounds. One of the grounds for divorce was either adultery or cruel and inhuman treatment, right? And those two often flow together because the adultery could be so bad that it's almost cruel and inhumane treatment of someone
Wow.
else, right?
Interesting.
So those two kind of go hand in hand. Adultery is far more difficult to prove than cruel and inhuman treatment. And again, we've now moved away from all those things, and we now have something in New York called irretrievable breakdown of a marriage, where you could just, even
Okay.
if there is adultery, all you could say is, look, I'm done. Whether you cheated on me, whether you cursed at me, whether you hit me, whether you lied to me, whether you spent all our money, whatever it is that you did, whatever your transgressions are, I'm just done with it. So I want out. And you don't have to then prove what it is. But to go back to your question, does adultery play into a divorce?
Right.
The answer is yes, to the extent that it affects the finances. So for
I see.
instance, if Sebastian kept a lover for the years of his marriage, and he bought this lover very lavish gifts and took her to very lavish dinners and bought her very lavish dresses and took her on vacations. Guess what? He spent a portion of the marital assets
Wow.
on this
Interesting.
woman. So part of it, it's called dissipation of the marital assets, right?
Right.
And if you cannot dissipate the marital assets, you cannot spend this money on your mistress. So half the money
Interesting.
you can, but half the money belongs to your spouse. So
So the
assuming,
spouse will be able to claw back,
that's right,
kind of claw back from
absolutely.
the husband this
Absolutely.
money.
So let's say he
Interesting.
spent $1 million on his beautiful mistress. $500,000 of that million belongs to the other spouse. So that money is going to have to come out
That's
of
fair.
his share
That's
of
fair.
equitable distribution. So
Okay.
that's how it affects the divorce. Does it affect it in any other way? Only with respect to the children. And again, an
Okay.
adulterer doesn't make a bad parent. It says something about the choices that you make, but it doesn't make you a bad parent.
Got
If,
it.
however, you've neglected your parental duties or you've exposed your child to any kinds of acts that were inappropriate, right? Introducing, you know, somebody you now had as their new mother and confusing the child. Those kind of things absolutely play into custody.
Very
So
interesting.
can adultery play into the divorce? To an extent, yes, with
Understood.
equitable distribution and certainly with children.
Okay. Very, very, very good. Okay. Thank you so much for that all-encompassing answer. As a final point, a very interesting side note in this case, which probably is present in many celebrity divorces, is a huge ring. Sebastian gave Emily a multi-carat ring, or I forget how many carats, but it was featured all over page 6, and many photo shoots, paparazzi shots. What do you think? A ring like that, would Emily be able to keep it, or have to be given back to Sebastian, or it has to be somehow split? What usually happens in a case like this? What are the considerations?
So generally, gifts given to someone prior to the marriage are separate property, gifts for them to keep.
Okay.
There has been some case law that talks about specifically engagement rings, which are given in contemplation of marriage, right?
Okay.
And if one party then breaks their promise, so to speak, or to marry the other person, the question is whether or not I can get that gift back. So the New York higher courts, to some extent, held, there are variants of case law. Some cases have held that, look, if the ring, one particular case that I'm thinking of, the couple was engaged to be married, but the husband hadn't gotten a divorce from his first wife yet.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
under those circumstances, this couldn't have been a gift made in contemplation of marriage, because there couldn't have been a contemplation of marriage because he was still married. So the marriage would have been void and illegal. Under those circumstances, she was allowed to keep the engagement ring. But there are some case laws, especially, that have gone a different way, that said if it's a gift given in contemplation of marriage, then there are some ways that, fact specific, several
Understood.
cases that
Okay, so it's not. There's no easy answer. Looks like
no.
It's complicated, case specific, and really depends also on the judge and on how they agree. And speaking of agreeing, I think in a case like this or any other kind of very contentious case, it's a good idea to consider mediation. And this is something that you do as an attorney. And I think it's a good idea to consult with an attorney. If you're going through a divorce, you can't work out an issue, to go to a mediation-friendly attorney like Alla Kurolapnik. Alla, thank you so much for your digest. We hope the best for this couple in their uncoupling process. They have to consider about their kids, because for another many, many years, they still have to deal with each other, work with each other regarding their kids. That should be the priority. And I believe that mediation process really takes that mentality into consideration.
Yes.
Okay, Alla, yeah. Alla, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for tuning in. And we're going to bring back Alla in our next sessions shortly with more FAQs, frequently asked questions and answers on divorce and mediation law. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you so much. Have a great one.
Appreciate it. Take care. Bye.